breakout. We call him Pee Wee because he has that skinny little body, but he'll get right in there and mix it up with the biggest guys. If he's against a quick guy, he's just a determined competitor all the time.
You couldn't relax for a second when he was on the court, and if you lost sight of him, then a turnover was likely in your future. Fat Lever was everywhere on the floor, always looking for a steal on defense and tracking the ball like few others as one of the best rebounders at the guard position. He excelled in the Nuggets' fast-paced offense of the 80s, leading to him becoming one of the league's highest scoring and best distributing point guards. He filled the stat sheet as probably the most forgotten triple-double machine in history, with a penchant for going coast to coast. But something Lever rarely did was commit turnovers of his own, averaging over 3 assists per 1 turnover over his career. Lever was a steal of an acquisition by the Denver Nuggets in the mid-80s, and by his 3rd year in Denver, he was putting up numbers at the guard position rarely ever seen. He would have a 4-year stretch averaging 19 points, 9 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and 2 steals. He would be traded to Dallas while still in the prime of his career, but then chronic knee problems would turn him into a shell of his former self, as he would play his final NBA game at 33 years old. His best years were spent on the Nuggets, but the 80s Nuggets don't get a lot of recognition, and when they do, it's mostly Alex English. But Fat Lever was as good as they come, yet has truly become forgotten by most. Let's jog your memory. An Arkansas native, Lafayette Lever was accidentally given his nickname by his younger brother Elmore, who he said couldn't pronounce his full name, so would instead just call him Fett. Yet once Lever moved to Tucson, Arizona at the age of 11, everyone thought his brother was saying fat, and it stuck. Lever was already an avid basketball player at the time of the move, and when it came time for high school, he would attend nearby Pueblo High. By his 1976 sophomore season, he was already a starter, and then his junior and senior years would cement him as one of the best high school players in state history, as he would lead Pueblo to back-to-back state titles and an undefeated 28-0 season while earning All-State and All-American honors as a senior. Lever had started high school as a virtual unknown, but he ended high school in high demand, and while he would stay in-state for college, he would stray a little further from home. Lever would turn down Arizona and instead decide on Arizona State, as he would say that he needed to get out of Tucson to gain some independence and grow up, yet still wanted to be close enough to home in case of an emergency, as Lever's new home was now Tempe. Unfortunately, there isn't any footage of Lever's college days, so I'll briefly summarize his years as a Sun Devil. Lever would have a small role as a freshman, only getting about 13 minutes a game, but would be one of 2 players to average at least a steal, as the Sun Devils went 16-14 and missed the tournament. After his freshman year, Lever would recall trying out for the 1979 Under-19 US World Championship team, alongside some of the best players in the nation, and how this was the turning point which made Lever realize that he could really play. The 1980 Sun Devils had a starting 5 of future NBA players, including guys like Alton Lister and Byron Scott. Lever would be the team's starting point guard, as he would lead the team in both assists and steals, as ASU finished the regular season at 21-6, and got a first-round matchup with Loyola Marymount, as Lever finished with 8 points and 2 assists in a win. The second round saw ASU lose to Ohio State, as Lever had 9 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. 1981 was one of the most memorable in Sun Devils history. Lever would average double figures while again leading the team in assists and steals, as well as leading the conference in steals, as Lever was named first team all-conference. And Arizona finished this season with a bang, as they defeated top-ranked Oregon State by 20 points in the season finale, to finish with a record of 24-3, and their number 3 national ranking was the highest in school history. But the first round versus Kansas would end in a blowout loss. However, although ASU was the higher seed, the game was held in Wichita, essentially giving the Jayhawks home court advantage. Yet Lever would have 9 points, 6 assists, and 4 steals in the loss. Lever's 1982 senior season would again see him lead the team in assists and steals, as he would put up career highs in both scoring and steals, and would again earn first team all-conference. Lever would also have a then school record 38-point outing in a February 20th defeat of Arizona, but the Sun Devils had lost a lot of talent to the NBA and would only manage a 13-14 record and miss the tournament. And now they were about to lose Lever to the NBA. Lever would have some good pre-draft workouts to boost his stock, and come draft night, he would hear his name called with the 11th overall pick in the 82 draft by the Portland Trailblazers, who were coached by the legendary Dr. Jack Ramsey. And as Lever would later say, learning the game under Ramsey was the best thing that could have happened to him. The The Blazers had been good but not great since winning the title in 1977 and losing Bill Walton in '79, but they had just missed the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. They featured some good talent, with former first overall pick Michael Thompson, tough forward Calvin Nat, and high-scoring guard Jim Paxson, and Lever would play an important bench role for the Blazers this season, appearing in 81 games and even starting 45 of them, as he filled in for an injured Darnell Valentine, and he would produce quite well during those games in the starting lineup. Similar to his ASU days, Lever would make his mark on both ends of the court, as he finished second on the team to Valentine in both assists and steals, and would also lead all rookies in both categories, as he would have 5 games with double-digit assists and 16 games with at least 4 steals. Portland featured a top 10 defense, which helped them to a 46-36 record and a first-round matchup with Seattle. This would end in a 2-game sweep for Portland, as Lever averaged about 6 points, 5 assists, and a steal in about 23 minutes off the bench. The second round brought the Lakers, who were too much, as Portland lost in 5. But Lever would appear in every game and finish with a remarkable 7-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio for the series. But his rookie season had ended with him averaging about 8 points, 5.5 assists, and 2 steals per game. 1984 would see the Blazers bring in a great rookie in Houston swingman Clyde Drexler. Lever would remain as a key member of the second unit, again appearing in 81 games, yet starting just 22 of them, due to a healthier season from Valentine. But again, when Lever was a starter, he would significantly up his numbers, as overall he would finish second on the team in assists and first in steals. He would hit double figures in 45 games, would record double-digit assists in 6 games, including 5 double-doubles, and would have at least 4 steals in 9 games, with arguably his best game of the year seeing him go for 22 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds in a blowout defeat of Denver on November 22nd. This year, the Blazers had one of the best offenses in the league, and would even string together an 8-game win streak from mid-March to early April, as overall they would finish as the 3rd seed in the West at 48-34, and would get a first-round matchup with Phoenix. Yet after the team split the first 4 games, the Suns would win the deciding Game 5. Lever had a lesser role this series, getting nearly 10 less minutes per game than the regular season, and averaging less than 2 assists. But for his regular season, Lever averaged about 9.5 points, 4.5 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. But Lever would be blindsided during the offseason. Shortly before the 1984 draft, the Denver Nuggets traded their star scorer Kiki Vandeweghe to Portland for a package headlined by Calvin Nat. But it was a big package, and Lever was included in this, as the Nuggets felt they were getting a great two-way player who was better than any guard they had. But this initially upset Lever, as he would say he loved Portland and thought that he and Drexler were coming along into what could be a great backcourt for the team. So Lever would join a Denver Nuggets team led by one of the league's best scorers in Alex English and Nuggets legend Dan Issel, who was playing his final season in '85. Lever would become a full-time starter in year 3 and formed a great defensive backcourt with shooting guard T.R. Dunn. But for as good as those two were individually on defense, it was somewhat lost in the fact that the '80s Nuggets under Doug Moe were one of the worst defensive teams of all time, and this season would see them allow the second most points in the league. But offensively, they would average 120 points to lead the league, and getting over 31 minutes per game allowed Lever to show just how much he could contribute. He would finish tied for 3rd on the team in scoring, average 5 rebounds as a point guard, and lead the team in assists and steals on then career highs, as his 2.5 steals per game would be top 3 in the league. Lever would hit double figures in 61 games and record 16 double-doubles. But it was his first career triple-double in a March 9th defeat of Indiana that was most impressive, as he would finish with 13 points, 15 assists, and a career-high 10 steals, as he would have at least 4 steals in 22 games this season. The Nuggets would start the year 12-2 with a 9-game win streak, and would pull off another 8-game win streak in January, as overall they would finish at 52-30 and draw the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs. This would be a 5-game series, and Lever would continue stuffing the stat sheet, as he would begin with 2 straight double-doubles, and overall record 3 games with double-digit assists, and 3 games scoring in double figures, as the Nuggets would defeat the Spurs with a Game 5 blowout win. The second round brought Utah, and Lever came out in Game 1 with a monster stat line of 19 points, 16 rebounds, and 18 assists, and followed that up with 22 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists in Game 2, as the Nuggets went up 2-0. But in Game 3, Lever would injure his knee, which would knock him out for the remainder of the series. Yet Denver was able to ride their early momentum and defeat Utah in 5 games, to advance to a conference finals matchup with the Lakers. But they were still without Lever, as he would miss the first 2 games, with the team splitting them. Lever came back in Game 3 with the Nuggets in good position, having stolen home court advantage, but he would manage just 8 scoreless minutes off the bench in a loss. Game 4 would see him play about 28 minutes off the bench, yet shoot just 2 of 11 from the field in a close 4-point loss. He played well in Game 5, as he came off the bench and recorded 22 points and 6 assists, but the Nuggets were embarrassed in a 44-point loss to end their season, as Lever's first year in Denver had seen him average about 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists per game. Even though 85 had ended in defeat, the Nuggets were hopeful, as on top of Lever's injury, English had missed Game 5, and Nat had been struggling with a knee injury of his own, so Denver felt if they could stay healthy, they could compete with anyone. Nat would miss 13 games and see his scoring drop, but a 32-year-old English made up for it with the highest scoring season of his career. Lever had a very similar season to last year, yet would slightly up his scoring and rebounding, as on top of finishing as the team's 3rd leading scorer, he would again lead the team in assists and steals, as he was top 5 in the league in takeaways, recording 18 games with at least 4 steals. This year would see Lever hit double figures in 62 games, while recording 18 double-doubles and another triple-double, when he put up 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 14 assists in a November 27th loss to Golden State. The fast-paced Nuggets would drop from the highest scoring team in 85 to the 4th highest in 86. They again came out strong as they began the season at 11-2, and while they couldn't match last year's win total, their 47-35 record was still enough for the 3 seed and a first-round matchup with Portland. And Lever would get some revenge on his old team in a gentleman's sweep. He started slow with 3 points on 1 of 7 shooting in Game 1, but did add 9 assists. But then across the final 3 games, he would average about 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on over 52% shooting, which included a playoff career-high 30 points in the series-deciding Game 4 win. The second round brought Houston, and Lever again came out flat, with 8 points on 4 of 11 shooting in Game 1, but he would add 9 assists in a loss. Game 2 would see him go for 16 points and 4 steals, but the Nuggets fell behind 0-2. Denver would squeak out a win in Game 3, as Lever had 12 points and 4 assists. Then they evened the series in Game 4, after Lever went for 17 points and 7 rebounds on nearly 54% shooting. Game 5 would see Lever go for 20 points while shooting 4 of 6 from deep, yet the Nuggets would fall, and the Rockets would wrap up the series in overtime in Game 6. As although Lever had just 6 points, he added 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals, as Lever's season had ended with him averaging about 14 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists per game. But 1987 would kick off one of the most underrated 4-year stretches of any player in NBA history. It was, however, unfortunate circumstances, as Nat ruptured his Achilles in the season opener versus San Antonio and would miss the year. So Lever needed to make up for the lost production, and he would definitely do that. He would up his numbers significantly across the board, averaging over 5 more points and 3.5 more rebounds than last year, while also seeing marginal increases in his assists and steals. He would be second on the team in scoring and lead the team in assists and steals, which is almost expected as a point guard. But what isn't expected is for a point guard to lead his team in rebounding. Yet that's exactly what Lever did. He would finish top 10 in the NBA in steals and assists, and top 20 in rebounding, as he was the true definition of a do-it-all player, and would be named second team All-NBA, as well as finish top 10 in both MVP and DPOY voting. But surprisingly, he would not make an all-star team, as teammate Alex English even petitioned to the league to allow him to give his spot to Lever. Lever would hit double figures in 76 games and record 30 double-doubles. He would score a then career-high 36 points in a January 26 loss to Portland, where in that game he would also record 12 rebounds and 10 assists, as this would mark one of his league-leading 16 triple-doubles in 1987. And on defense, he would have 18 games with at least 4 steals, and overall would have nearly 40 more steals than he had turnovers this year. The Nuggets were still one of the league's highest scoring teams and would again allow the most points. But for the first time in Lever's career, his team would finish with a losing record. Luckily for Lever and the Nuggets, their 37-45 record would still be enough to get them the final playoff spot in the West and a first-round matchup with the Lakers. But LA would defeat Denver in a convincing sweep, made evident by their average victory margin of over 17 points. Once again, Lever would start the series slow with just 7 points on 3 of 14 shooting in Game 1, yet he would add 9 assists. But the Lakers would win by 33. Lever had his best performance in Game 2 as he finished with 26 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, and just 1 turnover, but the Nuggets would lose by 12. Then Game 3 would see Lever go for 13, 5, and 4 with 4 steals. But LA again blew out Denver, as Magic Johnson had his way with the Nuggets, averaging about 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 14 assists on 62% shooting for the series. But Lever's regular season had seen him average about 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists per game. Nat would return in 88, but would only manage 27 games, and would never return to the player he was pre-injury. And just days before the season, Denver made a trade with Washington for a package which included third-year point guard Michael Adams. And with this acquisition, TR Dunn would transition to a full-time bench role, and Lever would slide over to the vacant 2-guard slot, as Adams would occupy the point guard position. And these changes worked. Even with the position change, Lever picked up where he left off in 87, as he would again finish as the team's second leading scorer and rebounder, while leading the team in assists and steals for the second straight year. Lever would finish top 10 in assists per game and top 5 in steals per game, while also recording a top 20 defensive rating. He would earn his first career All-Star selection and his first All-Defense selection when he was named to the second team. And once again, he would finish top 10 in both MVP and DPOY voting. Lever would hit double figures in 79 games and record 29 double-doubles. Additionally, he would record 11 triple-doubles, which would be the second most in the NBA this season. And arguably the best game of his career came in a November 24th defeat of New Jersey, when he scored 21 points on 9 of 11 shooting, while adding 13 rebounds and 14 assists, and coming up 2 steals short of a quadruple-double, as he finished with 8 for the game. And for the season, he would have 23 games with at least 4 steals. Denver would have 6 players average double figures, en route to being the league's highest scoring team, and would finish with the best record of Lever's time there at 54-28, which would be good for the 2 seed in the West and a first-round matchup with Seattle. But unfortunately for Lever, it seemed that when Denver had their best teams, his body would fail him. Lever came out with a great Game 1, finishing with 18 points along with 11 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals, as the Nuggets got the win. Game 2 would see Lever go for 11 points and 12 rebounds, but shoot just 5 for 20, as the Sonics evened the series. But in Game 3, Lever managed just 20 minutes before his knees started stiffening up, yet he would record 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals in that time, as Denver went up 2-1. Lever would miss Game 4 due to his knee, as the Sonics evened the series. Going into Game 5, Lever was listed as doubtful, but just hours before the game started, he decided to give it a go, and he would come out and score 21 points on 7 of 13 shooting, while adding 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals, as the Nuggets won easily to advance to the second round versus Dallas. Lever was dominating this series, as after 3 games, he had recorded 2 double-doubles and 1 triple-double, and overall was averaging about 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists on over 54% shooting. But the swelling had returned in his knee during a Game 3 win, which would shut him down for the remainder of the series. And even though the Nuggets had a 2-1 lead when Lever went down, they would drop 3 straight to lose the series, as Lever's season had seen him average about 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists per game. Over the offseason, Lever would have arthroscopic surgery on his right knee, but was expected to be ready for the 89 season. And he definitely looked ready, as in a season-opening win versus Houston, Lever would finish with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, and 4 steals, and overall would turn in arguably his greatest pro season. He would again be the team's second leading scorer on a career-high 19.8 points per game, while again leading the team in assists, steals, and rebounding, finishing top 20 in the league in both assists and rebounding, while finishing top 5 in steals, and would have one of the 20 lowest defensive ratings in the league, as he would finish top 10 in DPOY voting for the 3rd straight year. Lever would miss 11 games, but in the games he did play, he would hit double figures in 70 of them, while recording 30 double-doubles and 9 triple-doubles, which would be the 3rd most in the league. And an April 21st defeat of Golden State would see him record 15 points and 13 rebounds, along with a career-high 23 assists and just a single turnover. Denver continued with their fast-paced offensive attack, which would get them a 44-38 record. Yet they had ended the season by losing 6 of their final 8, landing them the 6th seed and a first-round matchup with Phoenix. Although Lever shot just 8 of 21 from the field in Game 1, he still finished with 20 points along with 12 rebounds, 17 assists, and 5 steals, as the Nuggets lost by a single point, but knew that they could hang with Phoenix. But then near the end of the first quarter in Game 2, Lever went down with a thigh bruise and would leave the game, as Phoenix would win easily. But Lever would also miss Game 3, as the Suns would complete the sweep, and Lever's regular season ended with him averaging about 20 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 8 assists per game. Lever had 2 consecutive postseasons cut short by injury, but when it came to the 1990 regular season, he again did his usual damage. A 36-year-old English would see his usage drop, as he would take about 16 shots per game after averaging over 21 for the past 9 seasons, as he would drop to the team's second leading scorer, with Lever being his team's leading scorer for the first and only time in his career. And on top of leading the team in scoring, he also led the team in assists, steals, and rebounding, as this marked the 3rd time in 4 years that the 6'3" Lever led his team in rebounding, as once again he would finish top 20 in the league in rebounding and assists while finishing top 10 in steals, and would earn his second and final All-Star selection of his career. Lever would play and start in 79 games and would hit double figures in 75 of them. He would record 32 double-doubles, which included a 29-point, 20-rebound performance in a February 19th defeat of Golden State. Additionally, he would finish 4th in the league with 5 triple-doubles, which included an April 20th loss to San Antonio that saw him finish with 20 points, 11 assists, and a career-high 22 rebounds. Even with the lower scoring output from English, they would still get good seasons from guys like Adams and veteran wing Walter Davis, as they would feature a top 3 scoring offense, yet again boast one of the worst defenses in the league. However, they would still manage a 43-39 record, which got them the 7th seed and a first-round matchup with San Antonio. This would be a relatively easy sweep for San Antonio, but a healthy Lever did a bit of everything for Denver. He would play poorly in Game 1 with just 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on 3 of 10 shooting in a loss. Then in Game 2, he would shoot just 9 of 24 from the field, but he left his mark on the game with a stat line of 26 points, 16 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals. Then with the series returning to Denver for Game 3, Lever would again fill the stat sheet, as he finished with 20 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and 4 steals with 0 turnovers, yet would shoot just 7 of 17, as Denver dropped the game to end their season. But for the regular season, Lever averaged about 18.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 6.5 assists per game. But over the offseason, the Alex English era came to an end, but so did the Fat Lever era. Denver had let English walk after the season, and then in late June, they would trade Lever to the Dallas Mavericks for a pair of first-round picks, as Nuggets president Carl Scheer would say the team needed a facelift. But then Lever would be joined by English, who would sign with the Mavs in early August. And as Lever would say, the expectations in Dallas were the highest of any team he had been on, as although they were older, they still featured the underrated backcourt of Derek Harper and Rolando Blackman, as well as former 6th Man of the Year Roy Tarpley. But Lever's time in Dallas was a period of misfortune for the once great guard. The Mavs started the season 3-1, with Lever coming off the bench, before he was sidelined with knee inflammation that had been bothering him since training camp. And Tarpley would suffer a season-ending injury the following game. Initially, Lever's injury wasn't thought to be too serious, but then in late November, he would require surgery. And while he was expected to be out 6 weeks, it would end up being much longer, as his 4 games to begin the year were his only for a Mavs team who finished the season at 28-54 and missed the playoffs, as Lever's brief season saw him average about 7.5 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. Lever would be back to begin the 92 season and would appear in 31 of the team's first 40 games in a 6th man role. And although he had his moments, like dropping 32 points in a November 23rd defeat of Utah, or recording a 16-point, 10-rebound double-double in a January 18th loss to Golden State, he had now developed chronic knee issues and wasn't able to produce with his usual consistency, while really struggling to find his shot, as he shot below 39%. And his knee issues would take over in late January, forcing him to sit out and eventually have season-ending surgery again, as the Mavs would finish with a 22-60 record and miss the playoffs, with Lever's 31 games seeing him average about 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. And now, Lever didn't even know if he could play in the NBA again. In mid-October, prior to the 93 season, Lever announced that he would be sitting out for the entire year due to his knee issues, as the player who had missed just 20 games in his first 8 seasons had missed 126 games in the last 2. Blackman was gone, but had been replaced by rookie Jim Jackson. Yet Jackson would only appear in the final 28 games of the year due to a contract holdout, as the Mavs would record a franchise-low 11 wins. After a year off, Lever returned to Dallas for the '94 season. The Mavs had added another young talent in Jamal Mashburn, and Lever would begin the season as a backup to Derek Harper. But after Harper was traded to New York in early January, Lever would take over as starter for the remainder of the season. And although they were modest, he greatly improved his numbers as a starter. Lever would play in 81 games and hit double figures in 25 of them, while recording one double-double, with 10 points and 10 rebounds in a March 13th loss to Houston. But after finishing with 11 wins last season, the Mavs didn't have very high expectations, and they would live up to those by going 13-69 this year, as Lever's comeback season had seen him average about 7 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. And 1994 would mark the end of the line for Lever. The Mavs would release him in September, and he would retire, as he would say that he knew it was time once it became more work to get on the court than to play on it. But he had fought back and was able to walk away on his own terms at the age of 33. While triple-doubles have become almost common nowadays, they were far from that when Lever was playing, which makes it even more impressive that his 43 triple-doubles were the 5th most in NBA history at the time of his retirement. He has just 2 seasons with a top 20 defensive rating and 3 in the top 20 for defensive win shares. But that can be deceptive, as Lever had the ability to be a great individual defender, but played on Nuggets team who emphasized transition offense and had defense as an afterthought. And the Nuggets game plan would often see Lever leave his assignment early to get the rebound and kick off a fast break. But this is part of the reason why Fat Lever has become one of the most under-the-radar players of all time. He flashed his potential in Portland, and then upon arriving in Denver, continued to improve, until putting together an incredible 4-year stretch. Having your point guard routinely lead your team in rebounding is extremely rare. Then add in the fact that he was a top scorer and distributor, as well as one of the best at forcing turnovers. And you can see how Fat Lever is a player that doesn't come along often. It's a shame that his career fell off a cliff so quickly, as a healthy Lever probably could have produced at a high level for another 5 years. But that wasn't in the cards, and Lever needs to be appreciated for what he did do. Yet he rarely gets his due, even though he really was one of the league's best players in his prime. But that's it for today's episode on Fat Lever. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. If you liked it, check out this one on his longtime Denver running mate, or this one on his brief teammate in Dallas. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.